I was standing barefoot on the porch, coffee cup in hand, when an HOA officer pulled out a taser and shot my wife with it. Yes, me actual wife. What he didn't realize, she was special forces. And her old unit already had laser dots trained on his chest before the spark even flew. Now, before you ask how that's even remotely legal or why she didn't react, let me explain. In our neighborhood, legal is more of a decorative word. As for my wife, Harper, oh, she noticed. She always notices. She just didn't flinch because Harper doesn't take wannabe mall cops playing soldier seriously. Me? I flinched hard. Still in my slippers, I watched the arc of the taser shootout like some low-budget action movie. 1 second we were debating if we had enough charcoal for the weekend barbecue. And the next, she was on the ground, muscles locked, a twitching heap on our driveway. The guy yelling into his radio wore a knockoff sheriff's vest and sounded like he thought he was kicking in doors in Kandahar. Let me back up a bit. We moved into Sycamore Grove about 6 months earlier. The glossy brochure sold it as secure, peaceful, and family-oriented. Now I know that's code for run by a delusional HOA president with a clipboard complex. The streets were clean, the houses all painfully identical, and the grass was trimmed like military parade grounds. Put your trash out at 6:59 a.m. instead of 7:01? Citation. Forget to edge your lawn? Warning notice taped to your door like it's a summons. Harper found the whole thing hilarious. First day in, she joked the HOA rules were thicker than her deployment manual. But she played a long piece, quiet, good schools, and no neighbors screaming dubstep at 2 a.m. Sounded like paradise compared to the last base we lived on. First issue? Her Jeep. A matte black, steel-plated beast that had been with her since her last tour. Parked it 2 inches over the driveway, barely kissed the lawn, and the next morning, a violation notice appeared like someone had tripped a nuclear alarm. I laughed. Harper didn't. She scanned the notice and tucked it into a folder she labeled Sycamore Nonsense. Should have known then she was planning something. The HOA president's name? Meredith Lane. And yes, that's her real name. She carried herself like she thought she was ruling a suburban kingdom. Her laminated clipboard was basically her scepter, and her pastel sweaters worn even in 90-degree heat were her armor. She hated Harper on sight. Claimed Harper gave off combative energy. Said she felt male-coded intimidation. Whatever that means. Truth is, Harper didn't bow when Meredith strutted over and launched into a speech about how visual harmony promotes social unity. Harper blinked once and went back to tuning her Jeep's suspension. That was apparently all it took to paint a target on our backs. Suddenly, we were getting weekly inspections, 3 separate warnings about military-style vehicle aesthetics, and a thinly veiled threat about escalating enforcement. That's when the Civil Safety Patrol formed. Sounds official, right? Don't be fooled. It was 5 guys who looked like they'd been rejected from TSA training. They wore black polos, cargo pants, and sported knockoff patches reading Code Enforcer and Safety Lead. Armed with flashlights the size of Louisville Sluggers, clipboard holsters, and you guessed it, pepper spray. I saw one of them practicing baton moves in the cul-de-sac like he was auditioning for a bootleg SWAT reboot. Harper? She watched them with a calm indifference only someone who once stared down a warlord could pull off. She didn't complain. But she started taking longer walks. Started asking quiet questions. Began running cables through our attic. You planning something? I asked once. She smiled. Just watching. They're not ready yet. That's Harper code for, give it time. Meanwhile, the fake task force started going full Gestapo. Cameras on stop signs. Sidewalk chalk? Vandalism. A lawn gnome giving the finger? Hate symbol. No, I'm not joking. They find someone's grandmother for displaying hostile decorative intent. Then came the real kicker. One of them, this guy named Daryl, started peering through our windows, pretending to check the air quality sensor. Harper didn't shout, didn't make a scene. She calmly asked, "Want to see how your pepper spray holds up against someone who's been tear-gassed more times than you filed taxes?" He left. Fast. It all boiled to the 4th of July barbecue. Supposed to be a chill gathering. Burgers, beers, kids running around. But really, it was a release valve for a neighborhood that had quietly reached boiling point. Harper parked the Jeep right in front of the HOA sign on purpose. She even tied a tiny American flag to the antenna. Sure enough, the civil patrol showed up mid-burger flip. Tactical vests, citation pads, body cams. They formed up like they were breaching a cartel hideout. I watched them fan out while Harper stood in front of the Jeep, arms folded. "You're in violation," one guy barked. "You're welcome to try," she said flatly. He did. That brings us to the moment the taser fired, Harper dropped, and everything turned on its head. Red laser dots flicked on like divine judgment from bushes, the roof, the alley. Harper's old unit stepped forward from the shadows like ghosts. Calm. Controlled. Armed. I didn't even hear them arrive. But they were there. Harper smirked, opened one eye, and said, "I always wondered what getting hit by an amateur felt like." None of us realized yet she'd been documenting everything. Every warning, every citation, every ridiculous HOA stunt. And she wasn't alone. Turns out Sycamore Grove had been quietly simmering for years. Her binder now had tabs labeled false citations, privacy violations, and weaponized petty authority. Neighbors started slipping notes under our door. Pictures. Doorbell footage. Harper had become the unofficial collector of HOA war stories. Jim, across the street? Fined for excess tarp flapping. Single mom down the block? Cited because her dog's collar was too reflective. People had had enough. But Harper didn't rage. She jogged more. Scouted routes, installed a security system that looked suspiciously like a small surveillance network. All legal. Cameras faced public property or had permission. Still, the HOA escalated. Random pop-ins. Drones flying overhead. One day we found a note on our porch that said, "Porch light may exceed lumen limits." That went straight into the binder under overreach illumination. And then Chalkgate. A group of little kids drew rainbows and dinosaurs on the sidewalk. HOA called it defacement. Fine the parents. $100 per household. That's when the community snapped. Next HOA meeting? Standing room only. People shouting. Meredith pounding her gavel like it was Judge Judy on steroids. Harper just sat in the back, quietly flipping through her binder. Afterward, Meredith taped a notice to our door. Final warning. Presence of warlike vehicle aesthetics. Harper didn't blink. Just said it's time. That evening, as burgers sizzled and kids biked up and down the street, the civil enforcement unit strutted toward our house. Same mirrored sunglasses. Same air of fake importance. "This vehicle violates code 14.2.5, one declared. Harper, calm as ever, replied, "Which part, the freedom or the horsepower?" They didn't like that. They tried to serve another notice. Harper stood in front of the Jeep. "You want it moved," she said. "Go through me." Sunglasses guy pulled out a taser. He fired. Harper dropped. And then, those red laser dots reappeared. Her old team stepped forward silent. Lethal, not even breathing hard. Sunglasses guy froze. Harper stood, brushed herself off, yanked the taser wires from her shirt and said, "Shot was low," and left. The HOA officer dropped the taser. Literally his hand gave up. Harper walked up to him. "You just attacked a federal asset. Know how many laws that breaks?" He didn't respond. Couldn't. Then one of her team handed her a folder. She flipped it open. "Everything's ready." That's when I realized this wasn't a barbecue. It was a takedown. And they weren't watching us any more way we're watching them. Harper turned to the crowd and spoke. "In case you're wondering, everything you just saw has been documented. And submitted." "To who?" Taser guy croaked. She tilted her head. A man in a suit stepped forward, flashing a badge. "Agent Foster," he said. "DOJ. Civil Enforcement Division. We've been monitoring your HOA. And today confirmed every violation we needed." People gasped. Foster turned to the officers. "You impersonated law enforcement, discharged a weapon, and violated federal statutes." One by one, the so-called HOA cops were cuffed. Not with drama, just quiet efficiency. Meredith finally showed up, flanked by 2 terrified board members. Foster didn't wait. "You authorized this task force? Isbethis is private. You've operated under an expired charter, issued illegal fines, and assembled an unregulated paramilitary group. That's federal." She went pale. Harper handed Foster another binder. "Emails, notes, bylaw violations, everything." He nodded. Meredith Lane, you are under investigation for fraud, harassment, and RICO violations. Someone in the crowd whispered, wait, isn't that what they use for the mafia? Yes, I said. Yes, it is. By nightfall, the barbecue was over. Plates scattered. Smoke faded. But the silence? That was new. The kind that comes after a storm. A week later, Sycamore Grove's HOA was dissolved. Fines nullified. Task force banned. Harper didn't throw a party. Just deleted her files and went for a jog like usual. At the emergency meeting, someone nominated her for HOA president. She didn't campaign, just shrugged and accepted. Her first act? Shred the old rulebook. Second? Ban all citations, fines, and patrols. The board will operate on trust or not at all, she said. Then she handed me the gavel and whispered, this wasn't revenge. It was reconstruction. And before we left, she said loud enough for the room to hear, oh, hand, if you ever see a clipboard that says Civil Enforcement Division, toss it in the fire pit. The whole room laughed, because Sycamore Grove was finally free. And Harper? She wasn't just my wife. She was every tyrant's reckoning. Calm, tactical, patient, and when someone pushed her too far, she didn't push back. She toppled them,